was gonna make this video anyway, but with the Nintendo Direct, I'm very certain that like the idea that a lot of anti-woke grifters had that Nintendo was going woke is completely and utterly wrong. We have a pretty good idea of what is coming in the next year or so when it comes to their game releases, and everything looks great. You know, you have a Zelda game, you have Metroid, you have like Mario parties, like all of it looks great. All of it looks very much in line with Nintendo usually makes. Like there's nothing weird, unusual, or woke about any of this. And yet there is a very stubborn contingent of fans who really want to believe that Nintendo is going woke, right? Grummz released a statement some time ago saying that Nintendo had put like DEI like job listings on their website, and so people jumped on it like, oh, Nintendo is going woke. Oh, they're doing this and this. They're ruining our video games. So they tried to create a controversy about it. They tried rallying in the troops, you know, Raging Golden Eagle, Sean Malmstrom, like those guys, like all of them came out and like made these statements that like Nintendo is the worst in the industry. Like they're finally going woke. They're finally going to destroy all their video games. Like they're not very good anymore. Like they tried really hard to make this a thing. And what happens last night? Grummz notices that like the DEI job listing has been taken down from the website, and he made a tweet about it. And immediately, people came on to damage control, like, oh, like, no, you didn't filter correctly. You're looking at different job listings, like. They have DEI in like the bottom of the page. Like they tried coping, like, you know, completely writing off the original issue is that like the DEI manager was like a specific job position that was like specifically going to like localize like Nintendo products for like different regions or something. Like again, like the controversy was ridiculous to begin with, but like, you know, seeing like people try and cope and seethe about like the situation seemingly being resolved behind the scenes, you know, seeing like the end result of that, and like seeing like the next, like again, I've said this before and I've said this again. It really does feel as if the gaming community, like the Pretendo community, really wants Nintendo to go woke. Because there's this expectation among like PC gamers that like once that happens, people will like avoid Nintendo hardware like the plague, that they'll go out of business and then they'll develop all their games on PC. Right? Like that is the cope and the seed about this, because they know that like PlayStation isn't going to drive Nintendo out of business, that Xbox can't do it, like that PC can't do it, that mobile can't do it. So like now they're like kind of in that last string, right? Their last claim, like their big thing, like oh, once you go woke, you go broke. So like they've been trying to force this meme for like the longest time that like Nintendo has gone woke, and they've gotten a really weird lengths to it too. Like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, right? They keep claiming the game is censored, right? Because it's not like 2, but like 3 is a completely different setting than 2. Like the themes are different, the tone is different, like the character redesigns in 3 makes sense. Like to me, this is like kind of the issue when it comes to anti-woke grifters, is that they think that like a girl covering herself up for any reason is like a sign of like censorship, when in reality, like girls can wear different things. You know, like character designers like make different things. Like, you know, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is like the one that's always hyped up as being like, you know, a censorship happy like thing, right? Well, the game that's like the most anti-woke thing imaginable, right? But like if you look at that game, if you look at the character designs, like not every female character is fetishized, right? You have like Mirag, who I think might wear more than like any other female character in like the Xenoblade franchise, right? And you can't strip her down in that game because you don't have like character customization options, right? And Mirag is best girl, by the way. But like, my point is that like, yeah, you have characters like Mirag that exist in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So like, why exactly is Xenoblade Chronicles 3 a problem by having, you know, more serious characters, right? Like again, like what exactly is the issue with that? You know, Fire Emblem Engage was claimed to be censored, but when you actually look at the changes they've made, like a lot of them do make sense, right? Like again, I to a certain extent, like I'm very supportive of the localization industry, right? Like changes do need to be made sometimes if it comes to like unfortunate implications or things like that. Like again, Like again, I have never really the worst localization job I've ever seen has been the Thousand Year Door, and that's because they took like the script, the original English version, which was an improvement over the original Japanese, and butchered it to add in like ridiculous like characterization aspects, and like removed a scene entirely. Like a lot of the personality was lost in the transition, right? And again, like it was a shame that happened. I've always been very vocally opposed to it. It's a big reason why I don't like the remake much. But like at the end of the day, it didn't really affect the quality of the game at all, right? The Thousand Year Door was still a deeply flawed game before the localization changes. So again, like this is the issue, right? Is that these anti-woke grifters don't talk about actual positive and negative aspects of these games, focusing instead on arbitrary things that simply don't matter. Like, who cares if Nintendo is involved in the DEI industry? Because, like, every company is. Every company has a DEI page on their website, right? It's a pretty standard thing for companies in this day and age because, like, the government is straight up restricting companies from not doing that, right? And it's not entirely a bad thing, right? If anything, like you should be emphasizing that, like, again, this is the kind of thing I've noticed about Nintendo. Like Nintendo is promoting actual talent in the industry, right? They are growing as a company, hiring a bunch more people. And so, like, again, as long as they're hiring good people who can do the job, then it doesn't matter what their backgrounds are or like what they do exactly. Like, again, Nintendo is a very well effectively run business, right? To me, I think people are like referring to DEI as a boogeyman and not really talking about like the actual issue when it comes to like game development and the modern gaming industry. Is that like modern game devs do not like video games. They don't care about them. They don't respect them. They don't respect the audience. They are not interested in making good video games, and that reflects in the products. It reflects in the Hollywood productions. It reflects like everywhere except Nintendo products, right? I think it says a lot about like the current state of like the Nintendo going woke narrative, that like so many people are adamant that like the localization specifically is going to ruin these games, because when you get down to the root of the issue, like it's not really possible for Nintendo to go woke at like the corporate level, because they have too much established talent. They have too much like they have too many different franchises, too many different teams. Like the infiltration is happening to a certain extent, but to say that they have like complete control over the entire company is like laughable. And again, I don't think it's going to stop like good games from being made. Just like how good games still get made even in the Western gaming sphere. But like again, this is like the reoccurring problem I notice with like people who insist that like good games don't get made anymore. Like they don't experiment. They don't look for things. They only play like AAA games from big developers, right? They don't really respect like all the creativity and like the talent that goes into like more niche products, right? And again, like to me, it doesn't have anything to do with woke culture. It has everything to do with like people consuming products that are by design made for the lowest common denominator. And that is like the reoccurring trend. Like again, I'm so frustrated with people who believe that like video games suddenly started getting bad out of nowhere this generation or in 2014, when in reality it started way before that. It started in the 90s, right? And then it slowly started getting worse and worse and worse until where we're at today, where the entire video game industry is starting to collapse because companies can't stop laying off employees to give themselves benefits, right? Again, the the coping and seething I'm seeing in regards to like the Nintendo thing is it's just it's just another excuse to hate on Nintendo, is what it comes down to. You have a bunch of people who are jealous of Nintendo's success, who hate the fact that they've remained popular and relevant, that people still enjoy them, and they do everything they possibly can to like try to ruin Nintendo. And it's becoming like I do think that more and more people are starting to realize just how insane and out of touch with reality these individuals actually are, right? When I and again, it's not just like the anti-woke community, but when it comes to these people specifically, like these people have been complaining about the localizations in Nintendo games since the mid 2000s, right? Or even earlier than that, the 90s probably for like really hardcore fans. Like again, like it wasn't an issue then, and it's not really an issue now. Is my honest, genuine opinion on this. Is that like they're coping and seething about how Nintendo is like ruining their products is just not in line at all with reality. They do need to understand that these games are going to continue to do well and continue to be popular as long as they remain high quality, fun video games.